Hey everyone and welcome back. Today we're doing a full coverage foundation routine, and I have already done one of these on my channel before, which I will leave in the description box, which went down really well. But today I'm going to switch it up a little bit and show you how I do the same routine but using only drugstore products. So I really hope you like it. Let me know if you do down in the comments below, and give it a big thumbs up as well, and subscribe. And if you want to see how I got a full coverage flawless base using only drugstore products, then keep watching. So before we get into the actual tutorial, I'll just talk you through my hair, because you may have noticed that I've had a bit of a colour change, and it's not permanent, but I just wanted to have a little bit of fun and have some colour put in. It's really bright at the ends as well. So yeah, if you want to see where I got it done and everything, head over to my Instagram. I'll leave a link in the description box. If there's not any pictures up yet, there will be very shortly. So if you want to ask me any questions about it, then head over there. I don't always find that I have to use a primer, so I don't always wear one. If you suffer with large pores, or you are a bit oily, or you're very dry and you want like a hydrating primer, then definitely put your primer on now. To refresh my skin, I just normally use like a fixing spray or a priming water. So I'm going to use this one today. This is the Infallible Fixing Mist, and I think you're actually supposed to put this on after makeup, but I'm just going to put it on now. So I'm just going to give it a shake, and I'm just going to spray this all over my face. Oh, that smells so nice as well. Put on a bit more. So if I want like really nice full flawless coverage for like a night out or a special occasion or something, I do prefer to colour correct before I apply my foundation, because it means I don't have to apply a lot of foundation and concealer to get the flawless and full coverage finish that I want. This is the full coverage longwear concealer palette from the L'Oreal Infallible range, and it comes with a mix of shades like that. I'm going to use this green one because I suffer with redness, and green really does help counteract that. If you suffer with blemishes and things like that, you could use these to conceal first before you apply your foundation, but I prefer to colour correct and then do foundation, and then just lightly conceal any extra bits that are showing through. So yeah, I'm going to start with that one first, and I just take it on my finger. It's mainly on my cheek areas, so I'll just sort of buff this all over my cheeks. I'm not always like the neatest with this, as long as it's covered everywhere that my redness is. It doesn't really matter how neat you are. And I also go a bit on my chin as well. And there's also a little blemish there that I need to eliminate. That's my colour correcting done, and it looks a little bit weird right now, but trust me, it'll all work out in the end. So for my full coverage foundation routine, I'm going to use two different foundations. Obviously, you don't have to. And I started using these two together since Holly Boone started using them, and she really loves this combination as well. So that's where I got the idea from. And it is the L'Oreal Total Cover Foundation, which is very full coverage, but it's very matte, together with the L'Oreal True Match, which is also like a medium to full coverage. It is very buildable, and it's a little bit more luminous as well than this one. So I start with the Total Cover, and I just place this like on the areas where I need most coverage, which is definitely like around my cheek area. And then I'll do a pump and a bit on my hand of the True Match. Then I use my beauty sponge to apply it. I personally prefer to use a sponge when I want a really nice flawless full coverage, because I just feel like I can get the best result that way. I feel like when using a brush, it sort of leaves like streaky marks and stuff, whereas just using the sponge just pushes it all into the skin, and it just leaves a really nice even flawless base. You can see that the cheeks aren't looking red or green anymore, so that's completely covered it. If I hadn't have put that colour corrector on at the start, I probably would have needed a lot more foundation to sort of cover those red areas. I leave the under eyes as well completely bare of foundation, because I'm quite dry and my under eyes do tend to crease quite a lot if I put a lot of product under there. So I just save that for concealer later on. The Total Cover on its own is a really nice full coverage, but it just makes it a little bit more comfortable to wear using the True Match with it as well. So now we've got a nice flawless full coverage base, we're going to move on to concealer now, and for the under eyes I'm going to use two again, which again is unnecessary, but the first one I use as like a colour corrector. So I'm going to use the Lasting Perfection concealer from Complexion, and this is in the shade Medium Cool, and I find this on my skin quite peachy in tone, which really helps with like the inner dark circles of my eyes, because I don't know, for some reason they are quite dark at the moment. And I only put this in like the very corners of my eyes, and this just really brightens all that darkness and conceals that completely. So I'll just blend that in first with this beauty blender. Don't like to apply too much product under the eyes because, like I said, they do crease really easily. And I like to get right into this hollow part of the tear duct because I always find that that area is really dark as well. And you can see now that all that darkness has been concealed and my under eyes do look nice and bright. Move on to my next concealer, which I sort of use as like a highlighter, and that is this Age Rewind concealer. I use the shade, it's from Maybelline, and I use the shade Light. This one I won't apply it directly to the very inner corners because we have already got concealer there. So I like to just start here, and I'll just apply it to these areas. I don't like to apply the main bulk of product to the inner corners because I've technically already concealed there anyway. And then I'll do a couple of dots there, a little bit down the centre of my nose, and then a little bit just on the forehead. Because we're using this to kind of highlight as well, you want to put it in just more than one area, so not just under the eyes, because you want the whole face to be balanced out. That's why I do the chin and the forehead as well, because it just makes everywhere look a little bit more balanced than if you just had like a really light under eye. And then again I'll bounce this in with my beauty sponge because using a brush would probably move the foundation around. So using a sponge, you don't disturb any of the product underneath. Also like to leave the under eyes till last. I don't know why, I always do. And because this concealer is being used to highlight as well, you don't want to blend it out too far from where you've applied it. So I just do like little dabbing motions just to make sure that I'm not spreading it around all over the skin. And when it comes to the under eyes, I'll keep it in this area and blend it all in. I'm still keeping this area bare, and then when I'm happy with how it's blended and I've only got like excess product on the sponge, that's when I'll just sweep it into the inner corners. Again, I'm just dabbing over the areas which I've actually applied it, not spreading it out too far. And then when I'm happy with where it is and I've only got excess product on, that is when I take it into the inner corners. So that is my foundation and concealer completely done. I absolutely love the finish. It's so full coverage and flawless, but I haven't had to use a mega ton of product. If I had more blemishes and spots I needed to conceal, that is when I would go in with a little bit of extra concealer now. So I'd probably just go straight in with this palette and just pinpoint conceal any areas which I needed a little bit extra, but my skin isn't looking too bad at the moment, so I actually don't need extra. And then before I set all that in place with powder, I'm going to do a little bit of cream contouring. I'm going to use this palette from L'Oreal again. It's an Infallible Sculpt Highlight and Contour palette, and I use the shade Light Medium. I only use the contour shade in this. I don't like the highlight one, but I just take a little bit of that on a Real Techniques contour brush, and I'll just sweep a little bit of this down the contours. I won't come down too far. I just mainly want it sort of in these hollow areas. Also take a little bit on the forehead as well. And then to soften that, I can just roll over it with my sponge and blend it out a little bit. And I can always use the sharp edge just to sharpen the underneath and clean up underneath as well. And then now I'm done with creams, I can set all that with powder. Usually I like to use a loose setting powder, but because this foundation is quite matte anyway, and I've got dry skin. I don't need a loose powder to set this in place, so I'll just go over with my pressed powder from Rimmel, which is my favourite. And I like to take this flat brush from a Sports Girl and I'll dab it in. And then in the centre areas of my face where I did the concealer, I'll just press this in. And this way I just feel like I am really locking it in place. I'm not sweeping the brush around and moving the product around underneath. And then on the rest of my face, I'll just take the fluffier side and buff this lightly over the top. And even though this foundation is matte and I have got dry skin, I still like to set it with powder, even if it's just a little bit of powder, because I find that when I apply my bronzers and other powder products as well over the top, they blend a lot easier than if you were to apply them straight over creams. So for bronzer, I'm going to use this one from W7. I picked this up on a whim because I just wanted an inexpensive bronzer, and it's from W7 and it's in the shade Honolulu. And it looks a bit like Benefit's Hoola, but it is a little bit darker. I'm going to start with this brush which I just applied the powder, and I'm going to start by taking this where I applied the contour and then buffing upwards. Such a nice bronzer. I think it was only like £2 or £3. It's really, really pigmented as well. And I like to go on the tip of my chin. Always buff a little bit down my neck as well. I like to apply just a little bit down the sides of my nose, just because sometimes that can get a little bit lost if it's quite flat and just got the foundation and concealer on. I'm not really a blush person, but I have got a few favourites which I do like to wear, so I'm just going to apply a little bit of this Milani one, and this is in the shade Luminoso and it's such a pretty shade. Again, I'm just taking the same brush, tapping it in. I'll apply this to the apples of my cheeks and then blend back into my bronzer. And then I'll also take a little bit across the top of my nose as well. And then last but not least, it's time for highlight. I'm going to use my favourite Drugstore highlighting palette. This is the Sleek Solstice palette. And I'm going to use this golden shade today, and I'll just take this on the very tops of the cheekbone. I like to have most of the product in this area, so I'll just do little circles here and then I'll blend back and forward onto the cheeks and then up into the temples. And then I'll always just take a little bit down the bridge of my nose and on the tip as well. And then finally we need to set all that in place, so I'm just going to use the same spray as before and give it a good shake, and I don't like to apply it too close. So I've just quickly finished off the rest of my makeup, and that completes this full coverage Drugstore foundation routine. I really hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you did down in the comments below, and don't forget to give it a big thumbs up as well and subscribe, and I will see you soon. Bye!